Hello, friends, and welcome to this week's episode of The Blaze Bell Show. Today's guest is holistic life coach Heidi Weiland. If you feel like an introverted woman who is trying to overcome burnout, get unstuck, and build self-confidence so that you can create a life you love, then this episode is for you. Now let's dive in, babes. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm here today with Heidi of Vibrant Living. Heidi is a life coach who works with introverted women, and I just love your work. But I've been following your work and your social media, and I just love your energy. When I need some calm energy, I seek you out. And so I just appreciate you joining me today.
Thank you so much. It's always so lovely to hear when someone sees me on social media out there in the world. So I so appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about what led you to the work you're doing today and what sort of is the focus of who you serve today.
Yeah, my journey to coaching was the really kind of random random path of my own burnout and trying to find my own way out of, kind of the mid 30s. I had a pretty successful business and looked really great on the outside, lots of clients, had a team, all this great stuff. But internally, the way I was working had just like put me down into this, like, I don't know, it was just this stuck spot, this black hole. And it took me a long while to like actually see that something was going on and that I could take actions to change it. So my path to coaching, it was me taking care of myself and following my heart, following my interests without necessarily having a plan that this was going to become coaching. It was just like, I need this for my soul. I'm starting to feel better. So I want more and more and more. And along the ways, as I did that, I started to loosen some of my old beliefs and takes a really scary action, like to sell off most of my other business and just kind of like let have faith in the universe that I could figure things out, have faith in myself and my capacity to figure things out. And it just kind of came into focus one step at a time until I started noticing like, oh, I like this. Like I am in a path, I'm in a place where I've like done a 180 and I love my life now. I love my work now, and I am not perfect, and there's still plenty of hard days, but the difference, it's just so exciting to be here and then to look forward to the future and what this could be, like where things could go, who I could help even more, which is so different from where I was, or I just didn't even want to get up in the morning.
Wow. Wow. Well, and thank you for sharing that. And I think if you are a business owner, entrepreneur, I mean, burnout happens a lot. And so many successful entrepreneurs have a period of time where they're working 24/7 and just killing themselves, and eventually
Yeah.
getting to a place where you have to figure out you have to hire a bigger team or bring in some help. Even I have to do that where I'm like, during these hours, I'm going to turn my phone off. Like, I'm not going to respond because we can just work all day
Yeah.
and night,
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you were able to recognize that and start to find ways to change that. And can you tell me a little bit about, like you said, you had to do some scary things? What did that look like for you?
The first scary thing I really remember doing is I started doing a yoga teacher training, and every Friday we had, I think it was 4 hours of class, and I had to turn my phone off. And so my team couldn't get a hold of me, clients couldn't get a hold of me, and that was really hard. And it was also it was like that moment became so precious to me because by doing that I was able to just focus on me, just focus on the yoga and all of the beautiful, like the experience of that. Um, and so that was like, oh, that was a really good, like, oh, here's a flag here. This is very interesting. So finding ways I think the other scary things were kind of the same thing of like having more boundaries with clients, and like you said, like having times when I'm not available, and reducing the amount of time I was on email. Things like that felt really scary, because I felt like I was going to let people down. You know, if I'm not available for my team, then like what do they do? And what that really reveals, now that I have the perspective of a coach, is that there was a lot of people pleasing happening, a lot of like loose boundaries and ways of working that aren't necessarily helpful for the business, because they created burnout for me, and they don't empower people to kind of take care of their own stuff. And so that was really important. And then when I decided to sell off the business, that was the scariest thing that I did, because I didn't have a job. I didn't have financial, like really much savings. And I just had to trust that things would figure themselves out. And so, and they really did. I didn't, yeah, it's like, there's only so much that you can like decide. And sometimes just the universe has a different path for you than you can see in that moment. And so then my practice, it was just like every morning grounding into my faith of that. And it, it led me here. It wasn't easy, but
Yeah. Oh, so you took a big risk. I didn't realize that you sold the business and were like, okay, see what happens now.
mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, and you also said that you had to loosen some of your beliefs. So I'm curious, and I love that. I really love that. I've changed some major beliefs that I had in childhood or teen years to today. Some of my biggest beliefs growing up have really shifted, and I think that can be a real challenge for people sometimes, even when you've grown out of a belief, or you don't, it doesn't make sense to you anymore, yet you're afraid to change that. And so I think that's a great thing to share about. And I think that could be happening in a lot of ways in our world right now, too. So, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, that is real. That is now for me, it's a very consistent self-coaching practice, because a lot of those ideas, they're like self-worth, what my value is, whether I can, like, what value in terms of money and in terms of my ideas and speaking up and contributing. Especially as an introverted person, like my tendency is to hold back and let others do the speaking. But that is not like, that's not serving me in having my own business and creating something that I want, versus just responding to what it comes at me. So the it's like there'll be days where I'm completely in the new belief, and I feel very empowered, and I'm in touch with my like sense of power and value and what I have to say, and that's awesome. But a lot of the days, it's some of those old stories are still in there, and I see them, they'll be very sneaky and come up and just surprise me sometimes. And so my daily practice of checking in with myself, and then having support. I have a few coaches, I have buddies like in coaching business, and just really like sharing this experience with other people. I find probably the most, well, I don't know, it's really valuable, because as an introvert who's worked essentially from home most of her life, being separated and being not very connected to people is kind of my norm. And there's so much support and beauty in having those connections, but I have to be very conscious about it, because it doesn't happen naturally, so especially now with the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm really glad I asked you that, because I was thinking more external beliefs, and you were thinking more your internal beliefs, and so I love that. That's
Yeah.
that's a perfect balance. Yeah, that's great. The daily reflection of like, what do I believe to be true about me and about my path? And but I think as humans, we're not here to like just latch onto the first belief we're given and then write it out until the day we die. I think what's so beautiful about this experience is that we get to learn new information and then evolve, grow, change, try new things, experiment. Like I'm all about
Yeah.
experimenting, and that can just lead us to different places. So I think doing those internal check-ins sounds super valuable.
Yeah, yeah. I think I like to talk about it with my clients as like when they're born, there's this like big, beautiful bowl on the table, and people in their lives come and stick their beliefs in there. So, like a piece of paper, and so you've got beliefs from your parents, from your school, from your friends, from your job, from the culture at large. And then you get to a point in your life where like things aren't working that well, and you stop and you take a look into that bowl, and there's all kinds of stuff in there that's not serving you, that you wouldn't choose. And so then it becomes this process of being aware what's in there, and starting to choose and put your own beliefs in there.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Well, and I'm always too trying to urge people to make sure that you're taking advice from people who are living a life you'd want to live. And that's something I
Oh,
realized down the
that's so
road.
good.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wasn't doing that. I was trying to impress people and then realizing, but wait, I don't want to be who they are. Like, why am I trying to put on this blazer with shoulder pads to be like that lady, or just whatever little
Yeah.
things. And but sometimes it's like really big things, and a lot of times based on our parents. And I love my parents, and I believe they're all doing the best they can with what they had. But when we start living our lives based on, well, you should, like the word should is just such a terrible word. But do this, do that, and have the 2.5 kids and go to the college and be this job because that's what a good person does. It's just can
Yeah.
set a lot of people out of alignment with what they actually came here to do. So I think
Yeah.
finding those mentors who are like, now that attracts me, like that appeals to me, that lights me up. I'm gonna
Yeah.
talk to them. So
Yeah. What's really interesting, I think, strange with my story is like I had that moment of um, just like identity, like figuring out my identity as separate from the culture when I was pretty young, like in my late teens and 20s. And so then I like did lots of great things. Like I lived life by my values, but still, I still ended up creating this structure in my business that was based on these like deeper sense of like lack and self-worth. And I still created burnout. So it's really interesting to see that there's layers to it, and that as I mean we're multifaceted beings, we're very complex, that over time it's like something that started for me. It was great. I traveled, I worked online, and it was fantastic. But after 10-15 years, that kind of played itself out. And then it's like there's just a moment in your life, like these cycles are a natural part of it, where you question and you rediscover yourself and what you want.
yeah, absolutely. Can we talk a little bit about exhaustion? Burnout, exhaustion. I know for me, like I'm feeling quite exhausted right this
Oh
second.
no.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's okay. I mean, it happens. That's the thing,
Yeah.
and it's always an opportunity to look at how I've organized my life and go, do we need to make some changes? Or is this just a time in the month where I'm more tired? Or,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily a problem unless it's super consistent, I would say. But I am definitely feeling a lot of overwhelm this week and a lot of exhaustion. So
Mm.
help me, Heidi.
Yeah. So this is where I like to pull in some Ayurvedic wisdom. And Ayurveda is the traditional medicine from India, and it really deals with how like helping us to make decisions in our everyday lives that are going to create a foundation of energy and balance and ease. And so there's this concept called ojas. It's OJAS. We want to say ojas if you speak Spanish, but it's ojas. And it means vital energy, like the energy you have to live your life. And it is limited. So I like to think about it as a bucket. If you imagine like a big bucket that's got a spigot on the bottom. And so when you're born, when you're young, you've got like that bucket's full. There's a lot of ojas in there. But as we live our lives, we're like coming up with a cup and we are taking some of that energy out. So whether that's with, the good things we're doing with work, with fun, with travel, with having a family, or stressful things, stress is going to take a lot out of it. Whether that is physical stress from health things, from just being busy, from a pandemic. And the way we tend to live our lives is that we are taking more out than we're putting in, because at the top we are putting energy back in. We're doing self-care, vacations, the things that make us feel good, but the overall rate tends to be that we deplete ourselves. So then we get down low. The seasons also affect this, and then we're like, okay, I'm feeling depleted, so let's put some more energy in there. So we go on vacation, it comes up a little bit, we feel a little bit better, but then we keep doing the same things at the same rate. And so then we kind of get back down. So we end up just kind of fluctuating near the bottom quite a bit. And when we're down there, then we become less resilient. We become physically, it's easier to get sick. Our immune system suffer, our digestion can suffer. And then with our mental health, we also become more reactive, or whatever our patterns are, like stress and overwhelm, those will tend to come more frequently. So that is, that's the concept of ojas. And really it's like thinking about that overall like balance of what you're putting in and what you're taking out, and like not just for the moment, but for like the long term. Like how can you consistently increase that balance?
Yeah. So then does that take basically looking at those things that you just keep going back to and making some adjustments there so that you can like get a little bit higher up in your energy reserves?
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. So you can concentrate on what you're putting in and how you're taking care of yourself. And then you can concentrate on what you're taking out. So how can you take out less? How can you, maybe do less? Or how can you, like with your mindset, create less drama, create less emotional conflict that is very, that really sucks your energy out. So, and that's where coaching comes in on either side. It's like helping you to see what you're doing and then to create the changes so that you are consistently doing things differently in a way that's going to reduce exhaustion.
Yeah. Well, I think that's helpful. Yeah. All that self-reflection.
Is there anything in there that like any ideas that pop up for you?
Yeah, and I think, partly with the pandemic, like one thing that's always been so helpful for me is getting out of town, taking a trip, maybe a solo long weekend, things like that. As a mom, it's just such a 24/7 job, along with I do a lot of things that are very vulnerable and really out of my comfort zone, and those things are important to me, but I will get pretty emotionally exhausted. So I think, I just haven't traveled since this all began. So it'd be great to, get that going again sometime soon. And I think I really do need to examine, though, like those things that I keep coming back to and what of the things I'm doing is really the most important to me, along with still being able to pay the rent, and I have consistently been making shifts in that area. And I'm at a point where everything I'm doing are things that are really on mission for me and really important to me, but I still find myself getting overwhelmed. So
yeah, our society too, it's just the like culture and the way we do things. It is the effect we call it vata aggravating in Ayurveda. Like it is to create overwhelm. Like that is a natural energy that comes from this like overstimulation. So it's, it feels very personal sometimes, but it's like all around us.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I can see that. I feel like,
Yeah.
especially in America.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like, what about
Yeah.
siestas? What about, let's our, or even just staring at the wall? It's like with our
Mhm.
phones now, it's just, I
Yeah.
think that's also a huge part of it. Because when I
Yeah.
have downtime, I don't
Exactly.
always actually just sit, and
Mhm.
there needs to be
I
more.
know. I love like remembering childhood or fantasizing about what it was like when like the phones were stuck to the wall, and they had to like run to pick it up, otherwise we'd miss the call. And I
Yeah.
don't know, it just even thinking about that, there's something about it that feels so settling and nice.
I know. I forgot my phone at home a few days ago on my way to work, and I'd like dropped the kids off at school, went to work, and I'm like, oh man, I don't have my phone. It took about 5 minutes, and I was just like, oh, this is so nice. Like I've got a good 2 hours before I'm gonna
Yeah,
see that again. I think I should just make more of those moments.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, I know that you really focus on working with introverted women, and I'm assuming because you see yourself as one and have experienced life from that lens. And so, tell me a little bit about that and like self confidence and um, how you help. I guess you're part of that journey personally, and then what you offer to other people.
Yeah, I feel like at least the way I experience introvertedness, it's like there's a lot of internal focus. So thinking more about myself than I am about other people, and the internal questioning of like, am I good enough? Can I do this? Did what I say, was it like worrying about what I say, those types of things. So I understand that very well. And and I love working with other women who are experiencing some of these like more negative sides of being introverted, because being introverted, it's wonderful. I love it. I love the quietness and just my experience of it. So really, I think when I like the core of it, when I help someone, is looking at their mindset and what they believe about themselves, and helping them to see how that is creating the results that they have in their life that they're not liking. So that might be they're not liking how they're showing up in their job, or for their own clients they're not liking how they're like showing up in their relationships, or especially in like they have this sense of not being fully themselves because they're too scared. And that I'm just like, oh my gosh, like we got to get this figured out, because they're such, oftentimes they have so much to give, and just need to find the way to do that and feel safe doing it. There's a lot of, it can be very uncomfortable. So um, yeah, so helping people be aware of their limited thinking, and then start to retrain that, and finding ways to see themselves that gets them in touch with their power and their um, comfort or willingness to be uncomfortable and take risks. It's like you were just talking about how you're doing a lot of vulnerable things, and it is it is demanding on your energy. So finding ways to support that, support that process, and bringing in, like I talked about ojas and some of the Ayurvedic work, like bringing in extra self-care would be a supportive in helping them to then have a foundation to be able to be a little bit more explorative in their growth and their personal expression. And I don't know, it sounds kind of vague, and it really just like what it looks like depends on each individual and where they're feeling blocked. But really my goal fundamentally is to provide the tools so that they know how to do it themselves, and they can support themselves, self-coach themselves for, long after that we were working together.
Yeah. Huh. Well, I love that. And I always wonder, I feel like there's a real spectrum between like introverted, extroverted, and then a lot of people that are sort of in between. And
Mhm.
because I would say most people think I'm a real extrovert, but I don't personally feel like I am. And so I don't know. What's funny is my mom was an extraordinarily shy person, very shy child, and had a lot of like embarrassment and shame and different things go on in her young life. And so when she had me, she really almost trained me to be an extrovert. And she never wanted me
Wow.
to experience like some of the things she did as a shy kid. And so she even talked to like psychologists, like, how do you help someone break out of their shell and be outgoing? And so some of that's natural to me, I'm sure. But there are also things like even my facial expressions, I've got like a cartoon face. And so even that, I remember like practicing in the mirror looking neutral
Interesting.
or
Yeah.
looking pleasant or looking, these different
Yeah.
expressions so that people
Yeah.
couldn't read everything every time I'm in the room.
Yeah.
And then she would like have me, talk to people at grocery stores, do theater, do all these different things. And a lot of it I love, but there are still things to this day where it's almost like I turn on a switch, like, okay, go be confident and extroverted right now. And I kind of shift into a different version of me, and I'll like literally be sweating sometimes. Like my body is expressing these
Mhm.
nerves in one way or another, even if you can't see it on my face, because it is really uncomfortable still,
Yeah.
to go mingle and chat with people and network and all of this, and then I'll go home and just be like, oh, like I need 24
Yeah.
hours. That was a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do you hear that kind of thing from introverted
Yeah.
people, or is that just
Oh,
everyone?
totally, totally, totally. And I love leaning into Ayurveda to help them understand this. Uh, it's called the doshas, and it's like a way to, it's like human design or something like that, Myers-Briggs, where you can identify with different types. And there's some types of people that are more sensitive. And that's definitely me, because when I am out and around people, most of the time, it's like I can almost feel this vibration, and even and the bubble, and it can be, depending on how tuned into it or not, can be really overwhelming. But then there's people that have this more like steady energy, and they, they're their version of introversion is like they might still be quiet, but they're not feeling that like sense
Mm.
of like woo intense overwhelm. And then there's other people like the pittas, they're just there, like they're energized and they're talking, they have things to say, and we have moments where these energies, like we have different levels of them in us at different times. So like I can totally, like if I'm out like DJing or something and I'm like in the bar in that mode, I feel pretty extroverted, I am familiar with that. But like I could not do that day after day after day. It's like, okay, then I go home and the next day I'm just like reading a book on the couch.
Yeah. Okay, I forgot that you DJ. That is so fun.
Mhm.
Okay, I mean, I loved like just seeing the different sides, and there's so many layers to people. I think it's just, yeah, what kind of DJing do you do?
Yeah, I'm an electronic music DJ, so like house, progressive. I've been
Yeah.
doing it for a long time, and the actual like what music is called, it changes. It's just like crazy. I don't even know what the genres are anymore. But
I know there's a lot now. I feel like they're just
yeah,
multiplying.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, that's really
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it's fun. And now these days, it's like I'm not too into the late night scene, but um, I've been loving doing ecstatic dances, which are, sober, early, family friendly. And so you get your dance on. You don't have to worry about like any drunk people stepping on you or hitting on you. You just like express yourself, have fun, and go home early.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, I love that. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing so many things with us today. And I just feel like the people working with you are so blessed to have found you. And I'm just really glad that you have chosen to help other people. You know, that's a choice and it's a courageous one. And I think that's beautiful. Do you have any like final tips? Or we're heading into fall here in Alaska. There's the first snow today. So
Yeah.
well, I guess like when is fall over for us? I don't know. There's still leaves on the trees. So is there anything maybe seasonally? I know Ayurveda has a lot of seasonal things. So do you have any?
Yeah. So as we're transitioning from summer, which is more of an energy of fire, and into this colder climate, it's nice to, first of all, really be forgiving with yourself and create some extra time for downtime, because a lot of us have probably been on go, 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 go mode. And then school starts if you got kids and all of that stuff. So like finding some time for like a slow weekend, and then moving towards like the comfort foods, more warmth. So that's soups, foods that are moist, things like sweet potatoes, lentils and rice. Those can be really nourishing and easier to digest than some of the summer foods that are like all the fresh vegetables and like fresh raw broccoli, those things. Now is a good time to start cooking them.
I love that. Soup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like we naturally know, like we naturally like feel this like pull towards those things. So it's nice because Ayurveda really has like kind of an explanation on why that's helpful and how that supports us and energetically as we go through this transition.
Yeah. Well, and also when I release this, I would love to put a list of links to resources too for anyone who's like, what is Ayurveda and how can I learn more?
Yeah.
Obviously, they can learn a lot more by working with you, but we could also maybe share some more links to info on that because I learned a lot about that at nutrition school and I just think it's such a beautiful practice and so logical and I'd love more people to.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, Heidi. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. And I will make sure to direct everyone your way. Do you have any openings right now for clients? Or
So I'm getting ready to go to Brazil for a month. I'll be there
Ooh.
in October. So I will be starting with new clients again in November.
Okay.
And in the meantime, people can visit my website and either schedule a call or I'll have a waiting list set up so people can get on the list. Yeah.
Awesome. And you also do events throughout the year. I've been to some of yours virtually. I know you just did one in Hope recently. So,
Mhm.
yeah, we'll all keep our eyes open for those too. And have an amazing time in Brazil. A month? Oh my gosh, that is so exciting. Wow.
Yeah, I can't wait. It'll be
Okay,
nice and warm. Mm-hmm.
please take pictures. Please let us live vicariously through you. All right, thank you, Heidi. We'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks so much, Blaze.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, drop a comment, leave a review, or DM me so we can keep this conversation going. You can find me on social media at BlazeBellBliss and check out blazebell.com for tons of healing inspo, courses, and resources. Thanks for listening, friends. See you next time.